And we are live. I'm just pasting the event in the Slack channel, and we are going to have a look. We're going to finally start looking at some real practical applications of all the techniques that we've been learning over the last 32 episodes. And today we're going to look at video overlays. So we're going to use one or two of the techniques from a couple different episodes, and then we're going to use those to create an overlay that goes over top of the video. And specifically, we are going to look at this technique. Okay, so here it is, and it's just the sort of rolling in of the sort of rolling in of a couple different types of text, or couple different words of text. Okay, so from here, this is basically what we're going to do, but I'm going to redo the whole thing from scratch just to walk you through the whole thing, so it might look a little bit different. Maybe we have different fonts because I'm on a different computer than when I started. And let's just have at it. So have a look at this right now and just try to imagine what you think the animation technique is. Okay? And for this one, I've made it fairly simple. I'm going to just start talking about it. I'm just going to start doing it. Okay. But just try and, as I'm sort of getting prepared and thinking and moving along, just try and think about how you would do this. Okay. I'm just going to close this because I know what I'm going to do. I already have this text right here that we're going to use. And so I'm just going to copy that. I'm just going to press Command C to copy that. I'm going to close that file. When I'm working with text, I really like, just formatting it in a little text file and then copying and pasting it and bringing it in. And we're going to create an empty timeline. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that scene, and I am going to actually make my project 4096 by 2160. So this is a UHD size. Regular like 4K HD is 3840 by 2160, and this is 4096 by 2160. So I'm going to press Command 1. This is the size that we're going to be animating into, and it's also the size of the video. So if you want to actually have a look here, we're going to finish this off in Final Cut. So I have a Final Cut project that I've already set up. That's why I was a little bit late. Okay, so here's the Final Cut project, and this is basically what it looks like. Okay, so it's just a little short clip. It's about, the clip itself is about 9.5 seconds long. It's got a little bit of melody in it. I'm just going to trim this back here like this. Press it in. Get some snapping going on. And there we go. Yeah, whatever. I've already also put like a little bit of a grayscale on that, just a 80% or 85% grayscale on it. Okay, so let's get back to flow. Let's get back to flow. Here we are. Now, first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to paste that text that I had. When it gets pasted in, it gets pasted in with a really small font. So I'm going to turn on relative mode. I'm going to make this thing quite big. Make it bigger than I need it to be for now. And I'm going to click here, and I'm going to just choose another font. So, I don't know, let's go with... why not? Let's go with some SF Pro. SF Pro Display Rounded. And is there. Bold, heavy. And let's make this 400. No, I don't like the rounded display. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's go heavy italic. Heavy italic, just like that. All right. The other thing, if you noticed, it was all the text was centered. So let's center the text. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set up the motion. We're going to set up a baseline. okay, so that we can center our text properly. And okay, so we're going to set up a baseline, and then we're going to include this in a group. So the technique that I'm going to use, I'm just going to let you know right now, is masking to bounds. So I'm going to have the text be animating inside of a group. The group is going to be the mask for the animation, and that's just about it. Okay, and then I'm going to use another layer to help me just position everything. That's it. Okay, so let's get started here. What I'm going to do first is I just want to kind of fiddle with the positions to get everything right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say insert layer. That layer is right here. See, it's really tiny because our scene is really huge. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this 4096. Oh, made it huge. 4096 by 4096. That's not what we want. We want, let's make it by 200. And let's give this one a background color of bright green, or let's go even higher contrast with pink so we can see it properly. And we're going to put it behind our layer. Okay, so this little bar is now centered completely, which we can now use to center our text, right? So if I brought this down here and I was looking to center that thing, what we can do is we say, okay, well, it's obviously not thick enough yet. So let's make it, let's make it 300. And now let's position this. And that looks close to centered. That looks pretty good. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to tighten it to the upper and the bottom, bounds of the text. So I'm going to select the layer, and I'm going to just click down until that layer tightens right up nicely underneath, right to the bottom of the N's and the I's and all those letters. Okay, so we're going to have a little bit of extra here, but this is now going to be our baseline. We're going to align everything to this pink layer. Okay, the next thing that we want to do is we want to set up the group that's going to do the masking. We're going to use another layer for that. So we're going to insert a layer, and again, we're going to make it 4096 because why not? And this one we're actually going to make much bigger. I'm just pressing, so what I did is I clicked into the height here, and I'm just pressing shift and up, and I'm just going to make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. We're going to make it about that big. We are now going to move this ready-made right into position and click down once. And we can zoom in. We can always zoom in to make sure that we are right on that baseline, just like that. And I'm just using my keys to move things around. And what I want is I want this main layer to encompass the Y. Okay, you see, so it's got enough space to cover the Y. So this looks pretty good. So it's centered. This is the size of the group. It is around that Y, so everything else should fit nicely. Yes, everything else should fit nicely. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that unicorn and I'm going to just drop it into that group, just like that. And I'm going to turn off that layer. Actually, we can keep that layer on for now. Another thing that I'm actually going to do is I'm going to, in that group, I'm just going to do this just as a visual reference for myself. I'm going to make the background color bright green. Great. So now, actually we don't need that layer. We can just turn it off. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to say at the beginning of my animation, my words are going to start underneath the group. Okay, so we're underneath the group. We are going to take this layer. Let's just put the layer inside of our group because it doesn't really matter for the moment. We're going to put it inside the group so we can see it over top of the background of the group. And now we're going to start our animations. So let's go Command Option R. I like to do this technique sometimes. It's just like go to the last position and animate to there. So I know that that's going to go to there. And this text name here. It's funny. Let's call this text. Enter. Oh. I'll call that layer text, just like that. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to about 1/4 of a second. Doesn't really matter. We're just setting up the positions for the unicorn word. And then we're setting up the position for the ready-made word. And then we're setting up the position for the Edison, just like that. And I got these words from hipsum.co. It's a good text generator. Okay, so now let's just look. This is our animation, 1, 2, 3, 4. Super fast, that's fine. We're not interested in the pacing at the moment. We're just setting things up. What we're gonna do is we're gonna select all of those and we are going to distribute just to make sure that they are on all the 1/4 second marks. Bam, bam, bam. Okay, everything's balanced in terms of time. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to select that group, and now I'm going to get rid of, we can leave it in for now. Let's play with the timing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that that whole thing, let's make the whole thing 5 seconds long, and we're going to scale that up. Now I want to have a little gap in my animation timing. So let's say that there's like 1/2 a second between each one of these words, which means that if this is at 1.25, just right there, I can go back to 0.75 and I can option drag this one to 0.75, just like that. And I'll do the same with each one of these. So let's go like this. Let's actually select each one of those and then option drag them all the way back. This is a nice trick. We should go back to 2 seconds right there. Good. So what did we just do there? We selected each one of these key values, of the last key values, we option dragged them. That created copies. And so now we get these gaps between the animated parts of our timeline. And over here, it created a gap to the end because when we copied or duplicated that last key value, it's actually the same value. And this is the principle of flow, is if there's 2 values on your timeline that are identical, and that's all that there is, you're not going to get an animation. Why? Why? Do you remember? It's because they're the same value. There's no need to animate between 50 and 50 or 100 and 100. If there's 100 and 100 and 100 and 100, like 6 key values all side by side, you don't need to represent those with an animation because there's no animation happening. It's the consistent value across the whole timeline. So the end of the timeline, you're duplicating and pulling that key value back. It's still just the end of the timeline. It's just like dragging that key value. Okay, so that's just a little technique. And now let's look at the motion. We're going to hit play. That's pretty good. Okay, that's pretty good. So what are we going to do? We're going to color these in, and then we're going to get everything ready. So let's turn off this this baseline layer, and we can even call this one baseline. And the text layer, actually, and then the group layer, we're going to get rid of that background color. We're going to make that 0. Remember, there's another technique. Oops. Relative mode was not on, so I'm selecting the first key value here, and I'm hitting delete because we do not want to animate the background color of that group. So let's leave relative mode on, and now let's select that group, and we are going to mask it to its bounds. Okay, there you go. So here's the first hint of what we are doing. There's the word unicorn. And there's the first visual hint. Okay, so that's it. That's the technique. There you go. One piece of text, one group, one layer, masking to bounds. That gives us our animation technique. Okay. So now let's give it some color. Let's give our unicorn some color here. Let's make it, just, why not? Let's make it that bright pink. Okay. Nice and bright. Oops. Wrong color well. Because I have the group selected. Let's select the text color. And let's make that nice and bright. Okay. So now comes the trick of how do we get this animation as an overlay for our video. And it's actually really quite easy. There is a lovely format, the MOV format, and you use the right compression, the right codec to export it, which is Apple ProRes 4444. And this codec has an alpha channel in it. Most movies don't have an alpha channel, but most movie codecs don't, but this one does. And so I think if we export it as an MP4 or we export it as using H.264 or some other kind of codec, this technique wouldn't work. But because we're going to use Apple ProRes 4444, this is how we're going to do it. The first thing we need to do is we need to get rid of that background color. All right, click on the name of the scene to select the scene, go over here, relative mode is on, and just make that background color clear. Enter, just like that. And now you press Shift, Command, and M to create a movie. And we're going to call it Overlay. Let's call it Overlay 1. We're going to render that out. And this technique should work in any video software. And here you go. So there you go. There is our video. Super nice resolution, nice and big. And it does have a black background, okay? But that black background is just QuickTime, okay? It's QuickTime adding a black background because QuickTime isn't transparent itself. It would be really silly if QuickTime was, because then you get all this like bleeding through of stuff into your videos. Maybe not. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I'm rambling. Let's head on over to Final Cut. So here's our Final Cut project. And again, this technique should work for Adobe Premiere, Camtasia. It should work for any video editing software that you might be using to make videos for courses or for even TikTok and that kind of thing. Now, let's press Command I. And we are going to grab Overlay 1. And here we go. We're just going to drop this right there. And look at that. Our words are over top of our video. Okay, so let's play this back now. That's it. Okay, now let's just go and export that to make sure that it exports nicely. We're going to create a master file. And this is our video overlay. We're making it not in 2020. And we are going to say next. Save it here, overlay, overlaid, because that's what it has been done. And Final Cut is going to get to work exporting that. Now, let's just say I wanted to experiment, make another, maybe I didn't like that color. I could go here and hit text. Let's make it, make that text. We're going to click on its main color. Let's make that text a nice bright white. Why not? And we do the same thing. Export, and we'll call this overlay white. And we can experiment with different things. Not quite done yet. Let's see, where are you at? There we go, QuickTime. Let's get over to QuickTime. Yeah, there we go. So back to Final Cut, Command I, overlay white is right there. Let's drop overlay white right in here. And in Final Cut, I can hit the, I can just hit the key V, okay? Oh, maybe I needed to just wait another second. I was being impatient. Let's go like this. Let's delete you. Command I. Let's bring it in one more time. I just think it wasn't finished rendering out. Maybe it got a corrupt version of that file. And let's try that one. Come on. That's not working. Let's go to the desktop. Grab that video right there, come back in, and drop that right there like that. Lovely. There we go. There's our video. Cool. Let's make you big again. Two different colors. Now, you might think, okay, well, why? You might think, okay, why should I do this stuff in Flow? Can't I do it in like After Effects or something like that? Well, you could. Good luck learning After Effects, or good luck learning Apple Motion, or good luck learning some other kind of motion design software. They're pretty tough to learn. If you know them already, yeah, absolutely, you can make titles. But if you don't know these, making the titles in Flow, and then that hitch of just having to export them at the right size and then bring them in, and you don't really have control over it once you bring it in, it's totally fine. It's actually probably faster for you to learn how to use Flow and just make things really, really quickly and bring them in at a really high resolution, drop them into your videos, than it is to learn Apple Motion. And I can speak from experience because I've used Apple Motion a lot in the past. It's what I used to cut, or it's what I used to do, like sometimes when I'm actually making a production quality tutorial, I'll have like overlays and little things and stuff like that, and I use Apple Motion for that because I might be wanting to do some like high-end editing or you know, changing of colors or like little subtle things that it would really make it a pain to do all of that stuff in Flow. There's this fine balance, but stuff like this where you know what the output is supposed to be and you can make it quickly in Flow, and it's not going to be dynamic, like you're not going to have like this thing change with text all the time. Like for instance, you're making a button for your videos that just says subscribe now. It's always going to say subscribe now. Make it animation in Flow and drop it in. Why not? Okay. That's more or less it. Let's go have a look at what our final product was. And because I think we're done exporting, and let's go like this, let's go like this. We're gonna go overlay, basics, overlaid, double click. Here is our exported movie. Super easy. Super easy, right? So, one more time. It's cool. Now you can do some other things too, which is really neat. Like watch this. So you remember how I turned this off? I turned it off by pressing V. What I can actually do is just drag this one underneath. You can even do some funny little things where you have a couple of different animations and you just offset them. See? There we go. We're just getting that, we just offset them by like a frame or something like that, by a very small amount of time. And then you get that, that effect of like this white shadow happening on top of the, brain is losing its mind right now. On top of the effect of like just this thing over top of your video, you're also getting this little shadow effect as well too. So you can actually play with the different things that you're importing into your projects as well. Okay. All right, that one was a little bit longer, a little bit off the cuff on the fly. Just kind of came up with the project this morning. That's why I was a bit late getting to the cast, which is okay. Thank you for watching. No challenges today, but have a shot. Try and do it yourself and show us what you can make out of it. Okay, talk to you soon.